We recently had the Netroots Convention, which is one of the largest gatherings of progressives and liberals and Democrats in the country. It's basically the equivalent of CPAC, which is the right-wing version, but it got nowhere near the press coverage. In fact, about literally 10% of the press coverage the CPAC got in terms of number of reporters that were there. And a lot of the people working in the press that were there are already bloggers that work on the liberal side. So that even misstates the equation. It got much less coverage than CPAC did. So one of the few people who was there was Vice President Joe Biden. Okay, good for him. Senator Elizabeth Warren, she had a fiery speech, and then you fall off a cliff. Then Senator Debbie Stabenow, lovely senator from Michigan, kind of. But at CPAC, of course, you've got all the top contenders. Now, that's one of the things that I want to talk about here. So the question arises, why? Why does it get so little attention? Well, have no fear, I'm here to solve that issue for you. I think there are 4 reasons why conservatives wind up getting a lot more attention than liberals do at events like this. Reason number 1, Netroots is not held in Washington. It's held in different places, including Detroit this year, right? CPAC is always held in Washington. Now, there's more press in Washington, so it's easier for them to show up. That's a real consideration. Number 2, conservatives say crazier things. So if you go to their conference, you can guarantee yourself that somebody will tell you that Obama made sure that we didn't actually land on the moon and ruined the Bay of Pigs, and that was all part of the conspiracy, along with Bill Ayers, Solyndra, and Benghazi, right? So it's easy pickings. Whereas at Netroots, you have generally very reasonable people saying totally rational things. Not that fun. So I get it. Those are 2 legitimate reasons. But as you saw on the list there, reason number 3 is because the media hates liberals. Now, I know heads exploding in Washington. Oh, no way! What are you talking about, man? It's the liberal media. You're crazy. They're all libs. No, that's not true. Now, I'll give you an example. Whenever you talk about the different budget proposals in Washington, do you ever hear about the Progressive Caucus budget proposal? You hear about Paul Ryan's, you hear about the Tea Parties, you hear about the conservative study group and this, and you hear about the president's. So you'll hear one Democratic position, the president's. That's understandable, right? Of course you're going to represent the president's position. But then you'll hear about 3 different Republican proposals. By the way, out of all of those, none of them balance the budget. There is actually one proposal that does balance the budget. It's the Progressive Caucus budget. So does that ever get talked about? Almost never. But wait a minute, how come you don't mention the one budget that is proposed in Congress that would actually do the job? Oh, that's crazy. No, they're irrelevant. They're useless. No, they would raise taxes on the rich and they would cut defense spending, like a majority of Americans want and have said over and over in polling. But they would protect Social Security and Medicare, like a majority of Americans want. In fact, if you go down the priorities of the Progressive Caucus budget, it is almost identical to the polling of the American people. Never discussed. Why? Because liberals are in the fringe. They're not mainstream. You don't talk about liberals. Who cares what they say at Netroots? I don't care. They're not. Oh my God, what did Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and Steve King and Rick Santorum and his vest say at CPAC? Oh my God, oh conservatives, oh conservatives. And partly this is a reaction to being called liberal, so they want to assure you we're so not liberal that we don't give a damn what liberals say, and we largely won't cover it. Now, it's not one of these exclusively. All 4 reasons have a part to play here, and that's why CPAC gets about 10 to 20 times more the coverage. But that's a giant number. That's why you have all these factors. The last factor might even actually be the most important one, and it's the fault of the Democratic Party. Because Democrats don't show up at Netroots. You only had Biden and Warren, and then they struggled with a 3rd person. Debbie Stabenow, fine. I mean, a mediocre senator from Michigan, no offense, although that's clearly offensive. Okay, and then the 4th person they listed on the list was a gubernatorial candidate, Mark Schauer. Meanwhile, almost every Republican presidential hopeful shows up at CPAC. Why? Because Republicans care about their base. They have to appease their base. They have to actually try to get their votes. Because there's primaries all the time, right? Whereas Democrats spit in their base eye. Well, I don't want to go there. I mean, they'll call me a liberal. Oh, wow. God forbid they should call you a liberal or a progressive. So although I blame the media for point number 3, I definitely don't blame them for point number 4. If the Democrats don't show up, why should the media show up? So if you think the Democratic Party is going to turn around, and after this huge disdain that they show year after year to their base, not just in this, but in almost all of their actions, which we've highlighted on the Young Turks over and over, dozens of examples, that once they get elected, then they're going to be really liberal or really progressive. On which planet? No way. So if you don't primary Democratic establishment people and you don't hold them accountable, if you're in the Democratic Party or you're liberal or you're progressive, well, then you shouldn't be surprised that they're not accountable to you. They're literally not even going to show up.